All right, I think we can start now. So, hello everyone. I welcome you all to the introductory seminar meet for Kharagpur Open Source Society. Yeah, sorry about that glitch. Hello everyone. I welcome you all to the introductory seminar meet for Kharagpur Open Source Society. I thank each one of you for joining this session. The prime objective of this meet is to make everyone present in this meet aware about what open source means in general, why there's a buzz around this word, what role do we as COS play in this regard, and why you should consider joining us. So let's start with the word open source only. For everyone present right now on the meet, I'd like you all to click on the link that will be posted in the chat right now. And it contains one question. What do you mean by, like, what comes to your mind when you hear the word open source? And I want you all to write your answers in that platform. So everyone present in the meet, please click on the link which is posted in the chat and write in your answers. Whatever you think, what comes to your mind when you hear the word open source. All right, so I can see some answers, and I guess like many people do have some idea what open source means, and I can see some very great answers in the chat as well. Very good. All right, so I guess everyone here does have a rough idea what open source means in general, and we can go to the next slide now.
Well, so many of you have a good idea about it. So for those who don't, let me do it for you. Open source is basically the term coined for freely available source code for various applications, which can be inspected, modified, or redistributed to anyone for any purpose. So then coming to who are open source developers? They are just someone like you and me who have a knack for coding and contributes to open source software or develop some of the open source projects. And that became the very origin of us, the COS. So we are nothing but just a bunch of open source enthusiasts who promotes the culture of free and open source software in and around IIT Kharagpur.
All right, to clear off some very important things, what is COS not? So COS is not a competitive programming club. There are people in COS who are enthusiastic about CP, but we do not focus on CP alone. At the same time, we also do not focus only on ML and AI. There are many people who are in this, who are involved in this field, and they have done projects in this field as well. But COS as a whole does not, solely focus on this. At the same time, we are also not only a web dev club, right? And for those people who are not in COS, events like Kharagpur Winter of Code and workshops conducted by COS, the Git and GitHub workshop, the Python workshop, and the Linux Vim workshop, I guess they're the only mode of communication between them and us. But to clear that off as well, we do organize events, but COS is much more than that. Also, we are not a research group and we do not come under any professor or the technology students gymkhana. And we do not prepare our members for open source programs and competitions like Google Summer of Code. There are many people in COS who have cracked GSOC, but it was not because of COS. I mean, we do not prepare them for these competitions, and it was solely because they were enthusiastic about open source and yeah, that's it.
So coming to what we exactly as cause to. So as I mentioned earlier, that we are a bunch of open source enthusiasts that promote the culture of FOSS around in and around IIT KCP. We also do like organize some of the events, including some of the workshops such as Git and GitHub, Python, REST APIs, Linux, Vim workshops, many more, and our flagship event, Kharagpur Winter of Code. But yeah, it's again not an exhaustive list, and again not the only thing that we do. So why you should bother joining us, right? So if you have for building practical things, you'll find a lot of like-minded people over here that would help you to get along with your projects and much more. Then there are people here who are experts in their own field. You have got any question, just ask in queries channel in our Slack or just ping any of us. And then there you can find people interested in infosec, web dev, systems design, blockchain, AI, DevOps, and any tech buzzword you name on this planet. And another important aspect of being a COS member is the that you get to experience some really out of the world fun that you will get to know after joining COS.
So next, coming to Meta KGP. For those of you who do not know what Meta KGP is, it's basically a group of developers who build and maintain projects catering towards KGP campus. It's not a society and it's an open group. Even you can join it. So the link has been posted here, the Slack workspace of Meta KGP. And people come in and develop amazing projects. So you might have heard about Meta KGP Wiki. The prime objective of this project was that information should be available and free to everyone, which can be edited by its own target audience, much like how Wikipedia functions. And there's the Chronos Grade Manager and the ERP auto login. So if you're not, if you've not heard about these projects, I highly recommend you to check them out on the GitHub organization of Meta KGP because you're missing out on things. And they're really amazing projects where people have contributed and maintained them.
Okay, cool. So then coming to our flagship event, Kharagpur Winter of Code, also known as KWOC. So it's basically an annual 5-week long program where students new or unknown to free and open source software can contribute to coding projects registered in the program by experienced mentors or project owners, and then gain some experience in contributing to open source softwares. So we basically started KWOC back in 2016, and till now it's been growing steadily, and it has been consistent in growing as well. So like in 2019, the students who registered were 2,500 plus, and there 300 plus students committed were there who who have made at least one commit. Then in KWOC 20, maintaining a consistency, there were 2,500 plus students who registered, and 300 plus students with at least one commit, and 200 plus projects were registered as well. And then in KWOC 21, since the semester also started late this time, and due to which many students weren't much aware of the open source programming. So there were still there were 1,000 plus students who registered, and 100 plus students with at least one commit.
So I guess by this point you should be very much aware, and I guess you should get the point of what open source is. So next comes the question why you should preach open source, right? So there are formal reasons like software is free and there are shared benefits and there's a sense of collaboration and transparency of code. Like if you have any issues with any of the software that you're using, if it happens to be open source, you can just open up a new issue on its repository page, and I guess it will be handled, right? And for the contributors, it brings out that feeling of helping the society and the world out there. But open source is much more than that. Uh, because of this, openness, it's not always goal oriented, and often developers go creative and they even show their working as a piece of art. Like there are repositories like No Code, which has no purpose, no objective. So it's a very interesting repository in which there is not a single line of code, right? And the description says that you should write less code for less bugs. And you'll be amazed by the number of stars this repository has garnered. It's 52.7K. And then we have examples like complex examples like coin relay. So this is a project which basically is it's built upon 128 different programming languages. It starts off with a Ruby program that generates a Rust program that generates a Scala program, and that runs in this loop of 128 languages in total. So projects like these don't have a purpose and objective, right? But still, like they're used as a working piece to showcase when developers go creative, right? And open source provides a platform for that as well. So if not for the formal reasons, you should consider joining open source and contributing towards it for the creative ones. And at the same time, we have more interesting open source examples. For example, this is a very less known fact that the Apollo 11 mission, the lunar mission, which is considered to be a landmark in the history of mankind, the whole source code for that mission is made open source. You can check out. And like the whole assembly code which operated and managed the whole mission, you can just check it out and find it out for yourself. And apart from that, I guess you must have given tests on Moodle, which is a platform for an online platform where teachers can set a test and students can give their test. So that platform itself is also open source. So I guess if any one of you who has troubles with Moodle, you can go up and check out its repository, contribute to it, open a pull request if you want to. And there are other examples as well, like React OS. So basically, Windows is not open source, but you can use this, open source version of an operating system. This supports development and running of Windows compatible programs. So if you want to learn more about Windows operating system to low level, you can use this open source project. And there are other examples as well. You can check out them. Links have been posted in this slide. So we can go to the next slide now.
Okay, so it's time for a bit of fun quiz. So there will be a link posted in the chat box. So check it out for. Okay, I hope the link is pasted in the chat box. Let me check it out once. Yeah, so, and yeah, so this is one of the, again, useless web project, yet an open source project. But as you can see that open source is not, just not limited to some formal applications. So you can check this out as well. But Ashwini, can we get the link for the good link for the
Yeah,
quiz?
yeah, I posted the correct link. Please open that link. It's a fun quiz on open source.
So yeah, let's move on with our quiz. Thanks, Ashwini. Uh, First is what are the open source alternatives to the Google Chrome? And your time starts now. You'll have 1 minute until the voting closes. And we'll close the voting in 3, 2, and 1. Great. But actually, there were no wrong answers here. All of them, Chromium, Brave, Mozilla, Firefox, these all are open source web browsers. So yeah, then moving forward, who owns GitHub? Any guesses? Okay, let's see the results. Okay, interesting guesses. But surprisingly, this open source platform is owned by Microsoft. So yeah, many of you guessed it rightly. So this was with our quiz. And moving on, like Ashwini can take over.
Yeah. So we circulated a Google form before this introductory seminar, in which we wanted you guys to put up your questions, queries, anything that you'd like to know about cost. And here I'll answer some of them. So there was a question: what are the prerequisites and knowledge required for entering course? So basically, there is no prerequisite as such. If you have that knack of contributing to open source, and if you can explain to us what you mean by open source and what cost does, I guess that should be it. And for the learning part, we'll be giving, there'll be a specific round for that where you can learn. I'll be going into that in the next slide. So I guess we'll only be checking your motivation towards open source, what you mean by open source, and how you can explain, that sense of collaboration and contribution. Okay. The second question was, is Linux compulsory for entering in course? We do preach open source and promote open source culture, but it's not like you have to switch to an open source operating system. So even if you're not aware about Linux, if you're not if you don't have much knowledge about working in a Linux environment, it's completely okay, because open source as a term has a broader meaning. It's not just limited to switching your operating system to Linux, right? So it's not a problem. Then there was a question of I only have done PDF course and I've coded in C language, so am I eligible? The question was like that. So yes, you are completely eligible because open source has no barriers to language. The only thing is you should have that, as I mentioned earlier, you should have that knack and that motivation of contributing to open source and like what cost does. If you understand that, then I guess you are more than eligible. So I guess, yeah, there was one more question about projects. So cost as a whole right now does not do any projects. We do hold events and workshops and seminars in which we promote open source. There are organizations, as I explained in a previous slide, like MetaKGP, where all the projects are maintained. You can go check them out. But like as I said, they're open. Even you can contribute to them. So it's not like projects are like restricted to course and course does them. It's not like that. About the selection procedure, there'll be a slide. There'll be an upcoming slide in which I'll be explaining the selection procedure. So I guess we can wait on that. Any questions or queries if you have right now, you can put up there in the chat or unmute and ask, except about selection procedure.
So
yeah, you're audible.
yeah, so I was just going to ask, so this group is just going to be like a place for people who are very interested in doing open source and just asking doubts and find no place to ask doubts properly, right? Like any doubts related to web development or something, we just go on and we could just ask in this group, right? If and tips like on how to do stuff in open source, right? Mostly.
Yeah, so basically, it's a group of like-minded people. So if you're interested in web development, I'm sure you'll meet people who are doing things in that field, and there are people who are working in almost every field. So like you can ask them your doubts. I guess that answers the query.
Yeah, you can ask them, collaborate with them, work with them. So it's basically a small community in itself.
And if we are selected, will we be taught more on GitHub, or like we will have to figure out stuff on our own?
So primarily, you'll have to learn on your own, but there will always be people who like you can go to if stuck anywhere. But yeah, primarily you will have to learn it on your own.
Okay, because I do know like the basics and stuff, but like the fork and all those other advanced option is kind of difficult to get through the YouTube. So just asking, will we get any info based on that if we ask? Like workshops, will that be conducted?
So we conduct the workshops like every year for different like GitHub as well. From that you can learn as well. And since you said that there's are some topics which you don't understand, like first try to like Google it or just go to Stack Overflow or something. And still, if you don't understand, then ping us up anytime.
Are that workshops
Okay,
are for
thank you.
everyone other than the people who are in open, like cause?
Yeah,
That work?
those are for non-cost people as well.
And apart from this, these are only the prerequisites that will be needed.
Could you please repeat, Ken?
Prerequisites.
So as such, there are no prerequisites other than, having an enthusiasm towards open source. Other than that, like knowing some of the language, maybe basics, would be an advantage.
Yeah, so like if you have worked in, like if you have some open source contribution or have worked on projects, it'll be bonus points for you in the interviews. But as such, there are no prerequisites. So you should feel safe if you have not done anything like that right now. So, I mean, feel free to fill up the selection form. Don't worry about that.
So this group is just like a place for discussion related to topics regarding open source, right? Just that and nothing else.
Other than that, we do like organize some of the events, K-Walk, and workshops as well, where you'll yourself will present every like some of the times during the workshops, learn new stuff.
Okay. What is the main difference between Git and GitHub? I have seen it before, but like I do not fully understand how it's different.
All right. So Git is a development tool which, using that you can track your version changes of the project on which you are working on. GitHub, on the other hand, is basically a platform for storing your Git repositories. A web platform has been provided in the form of GitHub where you can create your profile and store all your repositories safely. So like one is a development tool and the other is a platform.
Okay. And in this open source society, we can work with through any programming language, right? Like Python or anything. And yeah, that's just my question.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, whatever language you are fluent in, I guess you can find many projects in that language. So I guess that won't be a problem.
And as for the question in chat, like, can I propose my own projects related to open source app developments? So, as for if you're looking for official, like, you can definitely, go talk around with people discussing your projects, and if they are interested, they can join you as well. But nonetheless, if you find anything, like if there are difficulties you face while developing your project, you can always ping any of them. They'll always be there to help you. I hope this clears your query, Santanu. So are there any more doubts or questions?
I have one last doubt, if I may ask. So my doubt was like uh, there is this thing where in GitHub, right, where you ask certain people for the you ask people like to give you the problem, and then we would have to solve the problem and uh, 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 give it back to them. Like, how does that work? I do not fully understand that. So if you could help me out understand how that works, it would be nice. Like certain organizations have bugs in their problem, they open source it out, and then we ask them for the request, and then we solve it. But I do not know how that exactly works. Could you brief out on that, please?
So, like, you can, if you have some experience with GitHub, any repository, there is a section on issues, right? So basically, the maintainers can open up an issue. Not even maintainers. I mean, it's not limited to maintainers. Other people who use that software can also open up issues which are there in the project right now. And like if there is an active issue, if it is open right now, people and contributors basically contribute and make efforts to solve that issue through pull request. And once that issue clears out and the maintainer is happy, he'll just merge the pull request, and that's how the whole process goes.
Okay. So like anyone can access ask requests for those issues, right? Uh, or is it restricted to only certain people?
No, it's open for all. Even you can look up the active issues on any repository you like, and you can fork that project, work on it, open a pull request, mention that in the issues, and I guess that sums up what open source is in essence. That's how collaborators come together and contribute to the society.
And when we work on those issues, like will we be given like deadlines and stuff, or like we can do it uh, on our own uh, timing?
So that largely depends on what kind of project you are contributing right now, and the maintainers. So if they want an issue to be resolved as fast as possible, they can add a tag on that issue that okay, I need like this issue needs this is an urgent issue and it needs to be solved as fast as possible. So in that manner, it's a sign for contributors to work on that issue first. And it largely depends on how the maintainers are maintaining this workflow of accepting pull requests and the deadline thing that you mentioned. It's not always there, but yeah, for some projects where issue needs to be resolved as fast as possible, they do put up certain deadlines to the contributors, and that's how it goes.
Okay. And at the end, when we are done with fixing the issue, do we get anything out of it, or just like experience stuff for experience purposes?
So yeah, first of all, you get an experience. Second of all, in your GitHub profile, you will earn contributions. So if you have a GitHub profile, you can check out, there's a chart beneath your profile which tracks the amount of contributions that you make, right? And like the more contributions you have on your profile, it directly means you are an active open source contributor, right? So about the incentive thing that you asked, I guess you get this sense of collaboration. Also, you can use this if you have a very good open source portfolio. If you have many contributions of such kind in your GitHub profile, you can use that during your job interviews as well. So basically, if you have enough experience with open source, you kind of know software development in its depth. So you can use that in interviews for vouching that you know software development.
Okay.
Okay, so then moving forward, we can yeah. So selections, we'll be having our selection soon. So keep a look at our Facebook and Instagram page. We'll post an update soon as well. And as for the selection procedure, as many of you have raised a query, so it would be like done in 2 rounds. There are no such prerequisites. So you can like register for the selections. You'll get to know more about the task itself. So it would be a task based round. So that's why you can learn and you'll get ample amount of time to like prepare for the task and then present it in the final round. So yeah, this was for the selection procedure. So if you're having any queries related to this, you can ask.
Tasks will be related to what?
That you'll get to know when you'll appear for the interview. You may get selected or not, but nonetheless, it would be an definitely an enriching experience and learning experience for you. So do give it a try.
And how many task rounds will we be having? Like only one task round, or uh,
Yeah, one. So selection would be in 2 rounds, and in between you'll be given a task which you'll have to complete.
okay.
So by when will the final members be selected actually?
As when I didn't get you exactly.
So by approximately what time when will the final members be selected? Will the second round get over? Before the end of June, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a query we are having instantly end of June. See, you don't need to worry about that. The whole schedule has been like made so that you'll get ample time for the task as well and ample time for your instance. So there will be no clash. You don't have to worry about that. Just stay tuned on our social media links, the Facebook page and the Instagram page for updates about when the selection will procedure, like when the selection form will be coming.
So yeah, this was all for our introductory seminar. Hope you enjoyed it and thanks for joining in. So the session